Good evening once again. Wish you a blessed New Year. Tonight we'll continue with this New Year series number 4. And tonight I have a title called A Blessed Life. I suppose during Chinese New Year season, I have spoken about the Jewish and the Chinese culture, their similarities. I have spoken about the red, the significance of red in the Bible and also in our Chinese culture. And last week we spoke about the 5 blessings and also the blessing from Deuteronomy. And so during Chinese New Year, we really cannot depart from this word blessing, or Chinese called Fu. So tonight we are going to explore a man who lived a blessed life, or in Chinese called 蒙福的生命. So let's look at this person. And he is none other than Joseph of the Old Testament. In the Bible, when we come to Joseph, you notice that the Bible did not record any negative thing about Joseph. It is not the same with other patriarchs. If you mention Abraham, it records about his lies, Isaac about his lies, David about his crime, his murder, etc. And then Elijah about, his passion, his human passion. You see, when we come to some of the great men and women of the Bible records some of their witnesses. However, and very interestingly, when we come to this person called Joseph, you really cannot read about the negative things about him. And so it's interesting to look at this life. Tonight we're going to spend some time to examine his life, and we're going to learn some precious spiritual principles that we can apply in our lives. Now, first of all, Joseph had a blessed life. Indeed, he had a blessed life. Well, Joseph first appeared in the Bible as a youth who was daydreaming all day long. He had a lot of dreams, and then his dreams were fantastic dreams. When he shared it with his 10 elder brothers, when they heard it, they were jealous, they were angry, and maybe they were fearful. Because he told them that one day they will all come and bow before him. In the culture at that time, seniority, rankings are important. And the younger, this younger brother is telling them that one day all the elder brothers will be bowing to him. How can they accept it? Naturally, they become jealous and angry. Even his parents, his father Jacob, his mom, when they heard about his dream, he shared with the parents that one day the sun and the moon will bow before him. And the parents heard, sun and moon represent them, and they would also bow before him, and they were obviously shocked and concerned, but they kept it in their hearts. And as we study Joseph's life, you notice that Joseph ended up as an astute dream interpreter. And he also became the capable prime minister of Egypt. Now, so you can see that his life is a blessed life. How blessed was he? Well, first of all, he was a family favorite son. In fact, his father made him a color coat, multi-color coat. And at that time must be, one of those branded, either Gucci or, those French brand, Italian brand, expensive branded goods. And his brothers were all jealous. And he was the favorite son of Jacob. And then he became Potiphar's favorite housekeeper. Well, he was sold into Egypt by his brothers, who wanted to kill him actually. And finally they sold him to the merchants, and then brought him down to Egypt, and he was bought bought by Potiphar to become a slave in the home. But he rose up from the ranks and he ended up to become the chief steward, the housekeeper of Potiphar's house. And then something bad happened. The wife framed him and then he landed in prison. While in prison, he became the royal prison's favorite prisoners. This is how the Bible describes. That the prison warden left everything to Joseph to take care. So he became the royal prison favorite prisoner. And finally, he became Pharaoh's favorite prime minister. Now, if you look at his life, was Joseph's life a blessed one? The answer is yes. A definite yes. Now, secondly, a blessed man like Joseph, even a blessed man like Joseph, will face disaster too. Now, sometimes we think that as a blessed person, as someone who is favored by God and someone who keeps the word of God, the will of God, then this person will live perfect life. Nothing bad will come upon this person. And sometimes when we see some disasters or some negative thing that happen in some servants of God or men and women of God, people who love God, godly Christians, we get confused. And sometimes deep in our heart we suspect. And it's actually terrible. We suspect that, well, maybe the person has some hidden sin. That's why God is punishing the person. Oh my, please don't think this way. Because even a blessed man will face disaster too. Let me ask you this question. How about Christ's crucifixion on the cross? Is it good or is it bad? Obviously, all of us Christians say good. But there are some who do not believe in Christianity. They say he's not very wise. To them it's disaster. But to Jesus himself, it was painful, it was scary. That's why he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane and told the Father, if it is possible, remove this cup from me. So you see, Christ has to struggle going up to the cross. But Christ is God's begotten Son. Even then, he has to face some of these disasters. It's a disaster to him. But it is a blessing to us all who will be saved because of Christ's death on the cross. Because Christ's blood was shed. So that now when we believe in Jesus, we accept Jesus into our life, then we are blessed. But it cost Jesus a lot. We enjoy the blessing at the expense of Jesus. Someone had to pay. Jesus paid for us. So we need to be thankful to Jesus. Well, first of all, we see that because of jealousy, how did this disaster come into Joseph's life? Well, because of jealousy, he lost his privileged position. His brothers were angry. And so they plot to kill Joseph. But finally, they sold him to the Midianite merchant who brought him down to Egypt, and then Potiphar bought him as a slave to serve in his house. So he lost his position from a young master, becomes a slave. People used to serve Joseph. Now Joseph had to serve others. It was pathetic, right? It was disastrous, right? Now Joseph lost his position, but he did not lose his self-worth. Now this is important. You see, this is the difference between a man who is blessed and a man who is a commoner. I tell you, if you do not have God, or for whatever reason you are far away from God, listen very carefully. When a person is down and out, many a time the person becomes, the person just changed. He becomes a different person. You see, Joseph lost his position, but he did not lose his self-worth. He never felt hopeless. Because by his performance in Potiphar's house, it proves to us that he never lose his self-worth. He never felt helpless. And by his diligence and wisdom, it gained him promotion. It gained him promotion. There's a reason to it, and I'll share with you later. Secondly, the disaster that Joseph faced, Because Joseph feared God, he lost his freedom. Now in Genesis 39, verse 20, it reads, when Potiphar's wife came to seduce Joseph, verse 9 of Genesis 39 said, Joseph replied, Joseph said, no one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? See, Joseph feared God. He feared God. He did not want to commit the sin. You see, James and Proverbs tells us the fear of the Lord is what? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Why Joseph is so smart and so wise? He's so clever? Oh, because he feared God. Here it tells us, you see, how could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? You see, he had fear of God. True fear of God. Not mouth confession kind of fear of God, but live out. There are a lot of people who use their mouth to say they fear God, but then you look at their life, do they really fear God? Now I'm not going to judge them, and you please don't judge them, but you just watch, right? Because if their action and their words do not tally, then you know what's the answer. Joseph was young, he was capable and handsome. That's why when Potiphar's wife came to seduce him, naturally I think with Joseph, that quality, he has such good condition. I suppose then, every young eligible lady would desire Joseph to be their life partners. Right? Young, capable and handsome. So Potiphar's wife was eyeing Joseph every day and came to seduce him. But Joseph did not succumb. Joseph rejected her. Joseph told her, he cannot do this wicked thing. Your husband has treated me very well. I cannot sin against God. And so, when lust turned into anger, Joseph was sent into prison. You see, such is human nature. When there is this lust and this lust is not fulfilled, it will turn into anger. We can see in many relationships today. Is it not true? When lust is not fulfilled, it turns into anger. And so, she framed Joseph up and had Joseph sent to prison. So Joseph lost his freedom. He lost his freedom for not participating in a sin. But although he lost his freedom, he did not lose his fighting spirit. Now, to many people, freedom is important, and I think to all of us, freedom is important, including me. But let's say if one day you and I lost our freedom, would we also lose our fighting spirit? I think for that we have to take a leaf from the Apostle Paul. Although he was in prison, Paul wrote Philippians and said, rejoice in the Lord. Rejoice, rejoice. That book was written while he was in prison. The prisoner in prison encouraged the people outside to rejoice. Or actually normally it's the people outside who will try to console the prisoner and say, don't be so sad, But it was the prisoner who consoled the people outside, or encouraged the people outside to rejoice. So you see, one can lose the freedom, but one should not lose or cannot afford to lose your fighting spirit. Joseph never lost his fighting spirit. Number 3, his disaster, when he did a kind deed, his kindness to others was not reciprocated. Well, one day, the baker and the cupbearer of Pharaoh were sent to prison because they angered Pharaoh and probably they made some mistakes in their daily duties, and they were sent to prison. And both of them had a dream, and Joseph interpreted their dreams. Well, as a prisoner, he need not do that, but he was kind, and so he interpreted their dream to console them. Well, for the baker, the dream was terrible because 3 days later he will be hung. For the cupbearer, Joseph's interpretation was he will be restored to his original position. And Joseph entreated him and said, please remember me when you are set free. Help me to get out of this dungeon. Help me to get out of this prison. Well, the cupbearer promised. However, promise is promise, but he never kept his promise. He forgotten about it. I suppose maybe he was too happy, since he has resumed his duties and his position, and he's standing beside the king, serving the king, and he forgotten all about Joseph. So Joseph spent another 2 more years in prison. Now, if you and I were Joseph, how would we have responded? We would say, no, next time I'm not going to do any good deeds. Not worth doing it. But you know something? These 2 years that Joseph spent in prison, in fact, God has a better plan. God has a greater plan for Joseph. Imagine, if Joseph was released because the cupbearer pleaded for him, and let's say the king set him free, where you think, what would Joseph's next move be? Joseph was a Hebrew. He's not an Egyptian. Naturally, he would like to go back to Israel, go back to Canaan, where his father's household was located. He would have left Egypt. He would not have become the prime minister of Egypt if he had left earlier. See, God has his perfect timing. And so I want to encourage one and all. If right now you are feeling that, wow, why take so long, God? Lord, why take so long for your blessing to come? Lord, why? I want to tell you, the waiting could be something that God is preparing. God is preparing something better than what you have planned for, what you have strategized, because God has a better plan. So Joseph spent 2 more years in prison. Obviously, he did not know. Only in hindsight, I think now we can talk this way, right? Now, if you and I were Joseph, would we know that better things is coming along? Maybe not. So, but in the meantime, don't lose your fighting spirit. Number 3. Well, a blessed man will not be suppressed for long. Yes, he will face disaster. Yes, because all of us will face the good and the bad. That's why Jesus said, there will be tribulation, but be of good cheer. But the difference is this: the blessed man who faced tribulation, the blessed man who faced disaster, the blessed man who faced calamity is different from someone who is not. The response will be very, very different. And for Joseph, his response was excellent, right? Excellent response. 3 times his response was excellent, because he feared God. He's a blessed man. Well, a man may be down, but a blessed man will not be out. No, they say you're down, but you're not out. He can be suppressed for a while, but you cannot suppress a blessed man forever. Then we see how Joseph turned his fortune or his life around. Well, Joseph displayed outstanding performance wherever he went. This is the spiritual principle. He had positive attitude, excellent spirit, and he has intelligence, he has wisdom, because he feared God. The Bible says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And so wherever he went, he displayed outstanding performance. His appraisal is always AAA, A+++. 1. He performed, he had outstanding performance in managing Potiphar's household. See, while he was in Potiphar's household, the Bible says this, Genesis 39, verse 3 and verse 6. See, when his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did. Now, notice, who blessed Joseph? Potiphar? No. The Lord. The Lord was with Joseph. The Lord gave Joseph success. So you see, the blessed man is that God gave him success. So wherever he went, success follows him. Remember last week we talked about Deuteronomy? Success, blessing will run before you. You can't even run away. Then verse 6. So Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. So you see, he lived a blessed life. Maybe lazy life. He did nothing except just to eat only. He only concerned about his food. The rest all done by Joseph. So you see, Joseph displayed outstanding performance from a slave. Now, you can imagine when he was bought over by Potiphar. You mean to say that when he entered Potiphar's house, he was a steward, he was the chief steward, he was the housekeeper? It could not be. He could be. Very likely Joseph was the youngest, least important slave or workers in Potiphar's house, right? But he rose from the rank. And finally, he ranked second in Potiphar's house. Beside Potiphar, he is the next man to contend with in this household. Then, he was framed by Potiphar's wife, and then he ended up in prison. Not because of his fault, but because he feared God. And what happened? While in prison, Joseph managed the royal prison well. Now, it's also interesting. How come prisoner manage prison? Well, this is how the Bible has recorded. In Genesis 39, verse 23, you see the warden, this is the prison warden. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care. So the warden left everything to Joseph. And then we see next, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. Now, the Lord was with Joseph. The Lord gave Joseph success. So you see, what's a blessed life? A blessed life is not only you and I work hard, you and I are intelligent. A blessed life is when God is with you and when God is with me. And then God gives you and give me the success. We carry the success wherever we go because the Lord is with you and with me. Well, the Lord gave him success in whatever he did. Praise the Lord. In Potiphar's house, in prison, and then in prison he ranked second again. After I tell you the significance of being second, number 2 in any organization. Then thirdly, he lived a blessed life because you cannot suppress a blessed man forever. So he ended up managing all of Egypt. Underline, all of Egypt. Not one constituency, not one province or one district, but all of Egypt. He was a prime minister. Genesis chapter 41 verses 42 to 44 say, Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger. So Joseph wore Pharaoh's signet ring, and this signet ring is like a seal. It carries weight, authority. He can make decisions, and it's official. And he dressed him up in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. These are all royal, royal attire, royal decorations. He had him ride in a chariot as his second in command. Imagine he rode the number 2 car in Egypt. Egypt has cars then, and if the car plate number for Pharaoh is number 1, then Joseph's car number plate is number 2. He had Joseph ride the second in command chariot. And people shouted before him, make way, make way. In Chinese they say, kneel down, kneel down. Thus he put him in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, but without your word, no one will leave hand or foot in all Egypt. English translation is better than the Chinese translation. Chinese translation missed out the 动手动脚. English translation tells you no one lift a hand or no one lift a foot without Joseph's agreement. See how Pharaoh trusted Joseph. So Pharaoh put him in charge of the whole of Egypt. And then now Joseph what? Ranked number 2 in Egypt. See, God is leading Joseph to assume higher and higher position, right? From the home, he was only a favorite son. In Potiphar's house, his responsibility, he's proven his worth, he becomes the chief steward. He is the number 2 in Potiphar's house. And Potiphar is a Egyptian official. Unfortunately, he ended up in prison. But in prison, he became the royal prison. That means the king's prison. Not any prison, you know. This is the number 1 prison in Egypt. And he became the most significant prison, second in command. And then finally, he ended up as Pharaoh's right-hand man, the second in command in the whole of Egypt. Now, you know, he's second. You know, Joseph's life is a life of second. Always number 2. But you know, number 2 actually is very blessed. Very blessed. Because why? When someone is called to account for their action and their responsibility, it's always the top man, the number 1. So don't be too happy if you're number 1, because one day you have to answer all the questions, okay? You have to answer because the responsibility rests on the number 1. But the number 2 normally are the people who are capable, like Joseph. You look at Joseph. You compare Joseph with Potiphar, you compare Joseph with the prison warden, you compare Joseph with Pharaoh. What do you think? You think the 3 of them are more intelligent, more hardworking? No, I don't think so. I think Joseph outperformed them. But he's still number 2. They are number 1. Why? Because maybe by heritage, they inherited the kingship. They were appointed prison warden. So they were number 1. So don't always aspire wanting to be number 1, you know. Because number 2 is really the person who works. And Joseph was such a man. See how blessed was Joseph. And God promoted him level by level. Number 4, lastly, Joseph's blessed life leaves us these spiritual principles. And then tonight we can learn from these spiritual principles. Number 1, your success may attract jealousies. So do not be discouraged. Well, a blessed life does not mean that everything will be smooth, everything, you know, you do not have face difficulties or disaster. No. But your success also may attract jealousy. You know why? Because the people around you, they are jealous. Because you are doing well. You are enjoying the favor. Favor from man, favor from God. So they are jealous. And then when they are jealous, they will plot evil things. They will say bad things about you. Don't be bothered with them. Do not be bothered with them. Just remember, your success may attract jealousy. Secondly, your devotion to God may land you in trouble. Your devotion in God may land you in trouble. Just like Joseph. Joseph told Potiphar's wife, how can I do this evil thing? Because I cannot afford to do this evil thing. He feared God. You see, because of his devotion to God, he landed up in the prison. Because when Potiphar's wife's love was unrequited, when she was turned down, her lust turned into anger. So you see, it's because of what? Because of Joseph's fault? No. It was because of Joseph's devotion to God. So your devotion to God may also land you in trouble, because people do not like that. So do not be discouraged. You will suffer for righteousness. God is pleased. But you won't suffer because of evil deed. They deserve it. See, your kindness may not be appreciated immediately. Right? Do not think that every time you did something kind, you did something good, you did something wonderful, people will appreciate you immediately. No, the cupbearer received kindness from Joseph, interpreted his dream, he was restored to his former positions, but soon he forgotten all about Joseph. So Joseph's kindness was not reciprocated. But God has a better plan. God has a better plan. In fact, the 2 years wait became a better, greater blessing to Joseph, right? I explained to you before. So the waiting is worth it. Today you may be waiting, I don't know. Today, if for whatever reason you are not in the best of position, and you feel discouraged, you feel, perhaps down, your day are not as bright, But I want to encourage you that while waiting, perhaps God is baking a better cake, a better birthday cake for you than the plain, chiffon cake. God may be preparing a blueberry chocolate cake for you. It takes a longer time to bake, but it's going to be sumptuous. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be very delicious. So sometimes you see, waiting, God has a better plan. Now because God favored a blessed man, God favored Joseph, God favored you, the place you work will be blessed. You look at wherever Joseph was, that place was blessed. Potiphar's house was blessed not because God wants to bless Potiphar, it's because God blessed Joseph. Jacob's uncle became rich not because God wants to bless his uncle, it's because God blessed Jacob. That's why his uncle received the byproduct, the blessing. So their blessing is a byproduct, but to the blessed man, the blessing is direct. And so what happens? Whenever a blessed person lives, he brings along the blessing with him too. Because the blessing follows him wherever he goes or she goes. She works in this place, you will bring blessing to this place. You will prosper this business, you will prosper this church, you will prosper this or that. But when this person leaves, you also bring all the blessing, all the prosperity with that person. He or she will follow he or she. So have you seen such person in your life before? Have you witnessed it? You notice, when so-and-so is no longer in this company is no longer doing well. Why? Because the blessed person has left. As simple as that. This is a spiritual principle, because the Bible says, wherever Joseph was, the Lord blessed him, the Lord was with him, the Lord gave him success. Not to Potiphar, not to the prison warden, not to Pharaoh, but to Joseph. So, don't you want to be such blessed person? The blessings follows you? Like Joseph, every defeat and disappointment become the stepping stone of your next promotion. So today, if we are facing one discouragement or disappointment, Pastor want to encourage you, because very well it might be the stepping stone for your next promotion. You look at Joseph. He was happy in the house until he was sold into Egypt, because his brother was jealous about him. Was it a blessing or it was a curse? Yes, it was not a good thing. It was a disappointment, right? But from a young master in the house, although being favored, but really you don't have much power, nothing much to do. But then when he was in Potiphar's house, he became the chief steward. He became the housekeeper. That's different. You are managing things. And then he was again, frame up, end up in prison. Well, prison is not a good place. But he was managing a royal prison. This is a governmental institution. This one is government, Egypt's main prison. And he became the second in command. I think about it. From Potiphar's house, now his position is getting higher. And then the next promotion is even better. The next promotion was he became the prime minister of the whole of Egypt. So, brothers and sisters, if today you feel a bit discouraged, I want to encourage you, because your disappointment and your defeat now might very well be your stepping stone to your next promotion. Hold on, don't lose spirit. Don't lose your self-worth. Continue to fear God. Now, Chinese, there is a saying, right? I read for you in Chinese, then I interpret for you in English. Chinese says, 祸兮福所依，福兮祸所伏. It means this. 祸 is misfortune. 福 is blessedness. Misfortune. That is where blessedness depends. You see, blessedness and misfortune, they depend on each other. Then blessedness, that is where misfortune lies. Now, when there is blessedness, there is also where misfortune lies. You see, Chinese are very wise, and they have this wonderful saying: blessing and misfortune, they are very closely related. In fact, they can just flip. And you look at Joseph's situation, you look at Joseph's life, wasn't it like that? His misfortune become blessing. Then the blessing will also end up him in some misfortune, and then it turns out to become a bigger blessing. And then it becomes another bigger blessing. But see, the important thing is this. His blessing is getting greater and greater. His position is getting higher and higher. See, it's okay if we have disappointment. It's okay if we have discouragement. If every time you and I face a discouragement, every time you and I face a disappointment, and then when we turn around, when we, see light, and then we climb out of the dark pit and dark hole, then we are one level higher. We are one position higher. We are more useful, more effective, more significant. Oh, that is okay. But if someone got stuck in a defeat, stuck in a calamity, stuck in a disaster, and forever stuck there, I tell you, that's the end. Not with Joseph. So we see Joseph's success formula. What was his formula? Very simple. Joseph said, how then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? How can? See, Joseph have a very simple success formula. His success formula is fear God. And the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And he had his diligence, being hardworking, with an excellent spirit, with a fighting spirit, his self-worth. He became tremendously blessed. And so tonight, I wish that all of us, if for whatever reason now you feel a little bit discouraged, you feel a little bit down, you are facing some maybe disappointment and failures, do not wallow in that mud. Learn from Joseph's life. And I believe that when you and I learn to fear God, then God's wisdom shall be upon you and I, and the blessed man. Last week I talked about Deuteronomy, about the blessedness of God in Deuteronomy, and you look at Joseph's life and you see how this blessedness is worked out. You see, the first blessing, you will be blessed in the field, you will be blessed in the country, right? Wherever you go, you'll be blessed. You look at Joseph, in the house blessed, in the prison blessed, in Jophi's house blessed, in Egypt blessed. Everywhere he went, he was blessed, right? Whether your calves, your herds, they will be blessed, right? Represent their work. You look at Joseph's work. Even as a prisoner, he became successful. The least of all trades, perhaps, vocation. Even as a prisoner, he became successful. As a slave, he became a housekeeper. And as a prisoner, he became the prime minister. Wasn't he successful? Everything that he touched turned into gold. And then you look at, the Lord will provide. The Lord said, your kneeling trough, your basket will be blessed. And you look at how, through Joseph, God blessed Egypt. 7 years of abundance, 7 years of famine. But you know something? You need wisdom to manage the abundance before the famine arrived. And God provided, through Joseph, provided Egypt with stability for 14 years. 14 years. 14 years. God supplies. God supplies. He's going in, he's coming out. He says, in the prison, I think he got a key. So he can get in and out of prison wherever he likes. So in he's blessed, out he's blessed, coming in he's blessed, going out he's blessed. So we see it did not the Lord bless Joseph. And you look at the Deuteronomic blessing, it fulfilled in Joseph's life. So be that blessed man, and I wish you a blessed new year. And more than that, let's be the blessed man and live a blessed life. God bless us. Good night.